One of the most hotly contested subjects coming out of the financial crisis between linguists and cognitive scientists has been, is the relationship between the language you speak and your propensity to save. Now, Keith Chen did a conversation about this during a TED Talk, and he is a behavioral economist, and he did exactly this. So if we go over here to the first slide that I have here, a reference from his presentation, is we can look at OECD countries, which are the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Far left, we have Luxembourg. Far right, we have Greece, and followed up with them is United States and United Kingdom. This is the low end of the savings rates of a percentage of GDP versus Luxembourg being on the higher end, who can save more than a third of their GDP in savings versus down here in Greece and United States. So what we're going to do, and what Keith Chen specifically talked about, was there's a difference between featured countries and featureless countries in terms of the language. So over here we have a graph of featureless and featured languages. We will come back to this very shortly. If I was to talk to you in language about my uncle, a Germanic language such as the English language, which is ours, we would just say uncle. But in Keith Chen's perspective, he was grown up speaking Mandarin Chinese. That was his parents, that's what they spoke. So in Mandarin Chinese, if I wanted to get across to you, or whoever I'm talking to, my audience, about who my uncle is, I would have to tell him a whole bunch of descriptors, a plethora of different descriptors, versus like, is he on my mother or my father's side? Was this uncle in the relationship through marriage or through birth? Was this uncle of mine on my mother's and father's side younger or older than my father and mother? And so there's a difference between how we would speak it and versus Mandarin Chinese would speak it. And if we come over here, talk about specific countries. In English, we have a past tense, a present tense, and a future tense. Past tense, we would say it rained yesterday. Present, we'd say it is raining now. Future, we would say it is going to rain, or it will rain tomorrow. In Mandarin Chinese, you can tell that all of these are the same because they look at time the same, versus in English, we break things down into chunks. We have 3 different chunks, 3 different dividers of time periods. Now, over here, we would talk about future and futureless countries and how they speak in their language. In the present tense, we view it today. We view this right now more highly than we do in the future. Over here in Chinese or any other language, we would say the present and the future tense is the exact same. Now, coming back to the graph that we just talked about, there is a 5% difference between futureless and future languages. Futureless languages being the lightest colored bars, having a highest propensity to save. Now, we group all these data sets from around the world and we can take them all together, anything from health to economic conditions to how countries view each other, and we put them all together and we come up with 9 separate countries around the world. We can match these on country of birth or residence, demographics, income, education, marital status. There's 6 different ways to do that. And we can even take it even further. So we can even look at futureless language speakers. They are 30% more likely to save in any given year, and they can retire with 25% more in savings. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when we take a whole bunch of data sets from around the world, health is exactly one of them. But we need an example for that to make it more realistic. So what I could use is smoking. Smoking, for example, is current pleasure for future pain. Saving should be the exact opposite like that. It should be current pain for future pleasure. But when we look at around the world in these 9 different countries and when we get these data sets, what we can assume from our conclusion is that futureless language speakers in these countries exuberate 20 to 24% less likely to smoke. They are also 13 to 17% less likely to be obese, and they're 20% more likely to use condoms in their last sexual experience. So all in all, futureless languages view today, yesterday, tomorrow, all in the same time period, and can in essence be higher likely propensity to save.